Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm joined by Eitan today, and we are diving deep into redefining our stories. This is a really powerful week to peel the labels off of all of the stories we tell ourselves, the things that we've deemed good or bad or wasteful or insignificant, and rewrite our own stories. We're embarking on a 6-week journey that helps us to get deep with the life lessons we're meant to learn in this lifetime, as well as having the influence over, from the energy of the month of Capricorn, we have an additional opportunity to break through and break free from the stories we tell ourselves, what we see happening around us, what's supposed to be, what should be, and to really leave all of that behind and create for ourselves a pathway toward the destiny of our soul. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most practical and powerful tools to navigate the coming 7 days. We do that through picking out gems from the teachings of Kabbalah. Both the tools and the wisdom together help us make the most out of whatever this week is offering us, but every episode ends up providing lessons and tools you can use any week of the year, any year of your life. And specifically because we're beginning, in a way, a new chapter, a new stage in the yearly process that our souls go through, and there are essentially 5 of those levels. We also have an opportunity, in a way, to forge a new pathway. That's really what this is about, looking at both the past and the present and how they inform what's happening in the future. So that's our starting point for today. We want to make sure also to call out that every episode on Weekly Energy Boost is really intended to help us open our perspective on what we experience in our life and to create more of an experience of elevation, of connection, and of meaning every moment of our lives. So I feel it's important to mention that, especially if you're listening to Weekly Energy Boost for the first time, or maybe even just the 5th or the 10th time. The goal of the podcast is to provide our listeners with the mindset, the consciousness, the perspective that helps us live a more meaningful and purposeful and elevated life. So, Eitan, how is this week helping us achieve that elevated and shifted perspective?
I think first we're starting actually a process of 6 weeks, starting this week, and the Kabbalistic name for that define this 6-week period is Shovavim, which refers to the concept of the universe, the Creator, giving all of us an opportunity to learn lessons that we skipped from our past. Practically, to go back to some emotional challenges, soul challenges, in order to give us a chance to break free from repetitive pattern. Basically, the way life works is each one of us, based on our past lifetime, based on our soul potential, have certain tikkuns, corrections, life lessons we need to learn, to overcome, to transform, and to reveal our greater potential. What happened if I didn't learn a lesson last year? What happened if I went back to old, same victim consciousness, poor me consciousness, survival mode consciousness, not believing on my self-consciousness, and then I'm moving on in my life. Maybe that particular issue doesn't bother me, doesn't feel blocking me. So what happened at that lesson I had to learn? So actually this periods during the year, but that one is major one, which the Creator tells all of us. Let's move seemingly backwards in order to create a breakthrough and move forward. So practically, if you are encountering with all challenges this week, and not just this week, in the next 6 weeks, okay? It can be some old anger is triggered. It can be some old fears that is triggered. It can be some old insecurities or repetitive or similar or familiar that is there that was not necessarily triggered recently. Step number 1, after the initial reactions of the fear or the insecurities and the movies in the head, pause, take a deep breath, and smile. I know the Creator, you're here to assist me, to help me, to create a breakthrough, to shift patterns for the rest of my life. So even though in that moment I feel confined and small and I don't like it and my ego just wants to get rid of it, or I want just to learn a spiritual lesson, how do I bypass these feelings? No. Sit in it for a minute. There's a jewel here. The Kabbalistic principles about it, it's called, you have a chance to elevate its sparks. It means to elevate through this difficult challenge to our greatest potential. So that's first opportunities. You're not going backwards. Actually, it's a choice. If you decide you're going backwards, you are going backwards. We are moving forward. How to do it, what is example of changes, we'll speak about it soon. But just you should know, this week, which by the way, it's corresponding to the period in the Torah the Israelites started their slavery. So what does it mean personally to us? We begin the process of exposing all the areas we are slaves to our ego, slaves to our fear, slave to our limited belief system. I don't want to be controlled by this, but it's a gift in a process of breaking free.
I think what you said, I mean, honestly, we could end the episode now because it's really the narrative that we tell ourselves, that we give to our experiences, that response that we have when we find ourselves in a similar situation or in dating a similar kind of person or stuck in a similar job or even being treated the same way over and over and over again, regardless of who's treating me that way. It needs to raise a flag for us to tell us that whatever story we've been telling ourselves about this repetitive pattern is actually what's inviting the repetition. And when I first heard this as a Kabbalah student, my mind was blown because it's literally my job as an individual, as a soul inhabiting a body in this lifetime to what's the right word? Like to connect or assign my experiences to their meaning and their purpose and their significance. So for example, you can have an interaction with someone and say, it was nothing. When in truth, the universe intended for you, the Creator intended for you to think deeply about it, to reflect, to learn a lesson, to become more empathetic, to rise above what you're seeing or hearing about another person. And you decide, you ascribe that scenario to meaninglessness, to insignificance. And then the universe says, well, she didn't hear me. The Creator says, maybe I wasn't loud enough, or maybe it wasn't clear enough. How can I send that same message again in a louder or more obvious way? Who's going to be a better messenger for this message? How can I call her attention to focus on this thing, it is not insignificant. It is not meaningless. Or in the case of what you shared before about the Israelites going down to Egypt, it wasn't coincidence, or it wasn't because a new pharaoh came into power. There is a deeply meaningful trajectory that began in this portion, in this section that we're talking about, but that also allows us to go back and find the meaning in what we previously thought is insignificant or coincidental, or we found it's our parents' fault, or the system's fault, or my culture's fault, or my ancestors. We find somebody to not to blame, but really to put the responsibility on for creating that pattern. And this week is really a beautiful opportunity. And of course, having these 6 weeks to continue to do that work, to recognize and identify the patterns that I no longer want in the script of my movie, the repetitive scenes. And it's funny because just this week we were talking about a movie that has a similar, years ago, I don't know if you remember it, there was a movie with Nicolas Cage called Family Man. And how profound, I mean, there's other movies, I think Sliding Doors had a similar idea, even Groundhog Day, right? Where there you see the impact of one decision, one awareness shift, one commitment, even just not to do the same thing over and over again, or the idea that nothing is insignificant. Now, I know some people can go crazy thinking, well, if everything means everything, you know, I could be so anxious, worrying, am I going to miss it? Did I get it? It's more about paying attention and being curious. Wow, that was a different reaction. Oh, I didn't think about that before. Or I see that different people are giving me the same message. What can I do with what they're sharing with me? How can I grow from this difficult position I find myself in? And because it's this 6 weeks process, it has even more impact. Those questions can lead us to an even more elemental discovery about what we're here to work on in this lifetime.
Beautiful. I actually remember the beginning of this period last year. Suddenly, after being, thank God, in my mind, healed completely from stomach and intestine issues, suddenly I experienced old pains in my stomach. And my mind started to go, wow, it's coming back again. And then right away, I recognized the old beliefs that attach to the physical pain, because every external pattern has also internal pattern, which is self-judgment. And it took me actually a day after movies in my head, it's coming back again, fear about it, self-judgment, I'm not changing, to pause for a second, 1 second. The reason is coming back, this is the period that we are. Very often, to really elevate to the next level, the Creator gives us a gift to truly clear, purify from the depth of our soul and our heart, the leftover dust, the leftover reactive consciousness. So at the moment I look at this, no, it's not coming back again. I have the opportunity to let go in the midst of feeling this way of any self-judgment. Then it just took 3 days to actually disappear. So, and I constantly, really, if we're truly observing our life, we are in the areas of our tikkun that we didn't break through. We are pretty repetitive and expected. We are expected to react in a certain way. We're expected when we are in a fight with the loved ones or argument with the loved one to go to the stories. For one person is, that's it, I can't handle it, divorce. For the other person, wall, shut down. We are, if you really look at this facade and say, wow, it's the same patterns of last year, of last month, of 2 weeks ago. And sometimes we're so slave to the opponent, and the mere fact that I'm not challenged for a few months with the same challenge, we think it's gone. I'm improved. I'm going to the next level. Thank God that we have this spirit that the universe tells us, it didn't really change it. Do you want to find your true gift, the jewels of your soul? Where are our jewels, our great opportunities for success, for making a difference, for shining in a new way that I will be surprised are hiding? Where are those gifts hiding? You know where? Behind repetitive, reactive pattern. So pay attention. You realize, again, whenever I'm in the argument, I'm shutting down. Pause for a second. After you catch yourself shutting down, continue the conversation with that person. What is shutting down? Is fear of having uncomfortable conversations. It's an old habit. Shutting down means what? I'm shutting down the opportunity for growth. And you don't have to do a lot. Just shift your consciousness. Instead of, I have to protect myself through shutting down. I have to protect myself by threatening for divorce. I have to protect myself by going for self-indulgence, food, sex, alcohol, escape, not following through with a commitment. Look at your patterns. Look at the robotic self. You want new self? You want gifts? You want miracles? Identify robotic pattern that manifests itself. Sit in the discomfort, because the pattern usually comes. I'm uncomfortable, immediate pattern of response. Sit with that and open a door for new cassette. Ask the creator, I'm open for new consciousness, for new thoughts, for new behavior. Stop operate from lack. There's opportunity for break. The fact that you're open for new thoughts, new words, new action, it's the beginning of shifting the pattern and accessing greater cassette, movie of your more elevated destiny and self.
Eitan, I want to take something that you said and break it down on a deeper and also, I think, more practical level. I find that a lot of people, like you said, to reflect on repetitive patterns, and you even mentioned for yourself that pattern of self-judgment, right? Which is not an external pattern. It's the inner voice, the inner critic, what we call the voice of the opponent, that constant soundtrack that plays in the background. And sometimes it's so quiet and subtle, we don't even notice it's there. For other people, it can be low self-esteem, low self-worth. There's so many different ways it can show up. How do we interrupt something like that that is so ingrained in us? So it's not even conscious. It's an unconscious loop that just keeps playing in the background. And whether we realize it or not, it's really where those thoughts, right? We often think when we're in a repetitive pattern, right? You have a boss that disrespects you. The boss is the problem, right? Then we come and we study Kabbalah and we realize, no, my tikkun is attracting a boss who disrespects me so that I can develop greater self-respect for myself and boundaries and whatever the lessons are. But this goes, you peel back the layers. It's not about how you act. It's not about how you speak. It's what you think and what you believe. And that's one of the hardest the hardest levels to change because it is so unconscious. How do we do that work in these 6 weeks?
So for me, is number one, everything starts with external and then triggering the internal. So for me, for example, self-judgment is triggered by not feeling well. As crazy as it is, but each one of us have our own trigger, okay? So I would say, whenever I want to truly identify a pattern, for me, what works for me is journaling and through journaling and reflecting. It's a state of meditation for me when I'm journaling with my iPad that I have. Okay. So for me, step number one, writing down to myself what's, again, something that happened from the past that triggers similar feelings. So I'll go first with the feelings. What is the first reactive feeling that I feel? It can be fear, okay? Then I'm going to, what is type of thoughts that I have accompanying with that? Insecure thoughts, judgmental thoughts, victim thoughts, blaming thoughts, arrogance thoughts, isolation thoughts, whatever it is. And then I'm go, what is some of the words that associate with it and the action that associate? I think step number one is observation. Being truthful and observe. Take the time for observation. For me, observation with journaling helps. Things, as I'm writing, things comes from the inside and helping me. And then, after observation, this cosmic opening, we use the Zohar. You can use the free app, the Zohar app that we have. Well, I personally use the Zohar as a tool to access the gift from the universe to change, because while the universe sending us these old patterns in order to break free, the light of the Creator is available to give us the strength to break free. So then I would use the power of the Zohar in the Aramaic. I'm not talking about now the intellectual wisdom, the actually energy and light and power of the Zohar, by scanning, by reading, letting that energy awaken within me the wisdom. And then through meditation, after using the Zohar, okay, what is the moment, the things that I can shift? I cannot shift the external trigger. I can shift actually my thoughts as a response to what happened. You cannot shift immediately the feeling. If you, what is the new thoughts I want to insert now? The fact that you say, wow, it's opportunity to break free. The opposite of the victim thoughts, the self-judgment thought. Actually, I am growing. And then what is the new words that you'll say? You know, the other day someone told me, I feel better about myself. Then again, I'm attracting someone that holding me down and looking down, even though they don't say nothing. Right away, it makes me small. And I have all the insecurities make me feel small about myself. Do you have to? Number one, you assume they're judging you. Number two, even if they're judging you, does it have to be your cassette, their reality, their perception? Can you hack that program, repetitive program, that usually attracting at the end of the day chaos and negativity? Because any limited thoughts, which will attract limiting feelings, which will attract limiting actions and behavior, will attract limited reality. So it's all at the end of this day starts. I'm using the Zohar to help me to get the insight, the download. What are the new thoughts I can inject? Now, some people say, I did this meditation this morning. I infused new thoughts. No, I'm not going to hold myself small, guilty, nobody, incapable. I trust the light. The light is with me. I trust my soul. Mistakes doesn't mean something is wrong with me. I'm learning from mistakes. And the next day, the thoughts coming back. So I didn't transform. How come? The Rav Berg said once, we are bombarded with thousands repetitive negative thoughts. Now, after 2 days of inserting new one, you expecting to change all your reality? Are you really to transform the tape? Not just for 1 second? We need to be willing to have relentless effort of shifting the old thoughts And then the Creator will give us the gift of change when we've done enough effort.
Absolutely. First of all, I think that we should put the link to the Zohar app in the show notes for today and on our website so that everyone can bring using the Zohar into that daily practice that you described. I think one way that's very helpful to identify or to interrupt the bombardment of negative thoughts, and obviously it's not going to work every time. Ideally, it'll work 7 or 8 times out of 10, is to remember that whatever we give any energy to, that's the reality we're creating. So even if we're not talking about it, just the fact that we're thinking, I'm an idiot, I'm a nobody, I'm a zero, I always do this, we're actually strengthening the reality where we experience being an idiot. We experience being small. We experience being insignificant or alone. When we replace those thoughts, and the truth is, you said to me, I don't know if you remember, many, many years ago, if you're so sure that you're such a nobody, why do you believe the thoughts of a nobody, right? Like it's kind of a reverse psychology. But thinking in terms of whatever I give energy to is going to grow, is going to become stronger. So do I want to strengthen the thoughts of limitation, of smallness, of insignificance, or do I want to strengthen the empowering and uplifting thoughts? Even if I don't believe those thoughts in the moment, right? Even if I don't feel I love myself or I'm capable of anything, beginning to think those thoughts. And like you said, not just 2 days of thinking, but literally training your brain to have a completely different perception. With enough time, there is a momentum there that not only you start to feel different, but you start to experience the reality that you've been giving energy to. And I think that especially in this month, right? We talk at the beginning of every month how the reason that we even talk about what are the qualities of the individuals born under a particular sign is because in that month we all adopt some of those tendencies. Is that Capricorns tend to be very down to earth and very have a tremendous value in physicality. That they believe, they want to see proof. They believe in facts and statistics. They that's one of the challenges with, you can alter videos and photographs now. So you see something and automatically you believe it must be true. We want to use this month when our tendency is going to be to believe even more in the material proof, to suspend that belief, to exercise the part of our brain that says, maybe I don't see the whole picture. And by the way, we never see the whole picture, right? Even though our eyes can take in millions of pieces of information in a moment, we can hold on to 70 of them. I think that's something like that. To recognize that as much information as I can accumulate, as many facts, as many photos as I can take in, I will never have the whole picture. Because according to Kabbalah, what I see in the physical reality is only 1% of what's there. There's 99% of the picture I don't have access to. So the moment I acknowledge I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, more pieces become accessible. And so it's in this month that I feel that work is so much more powerful because the heaviness, the tendency to need proof and to trust intellect and logic and science, not that science isn't real, but it's like we have to work on expanding our perception and not trusting our logic and our intellect with so much force that we block out the limitless possibilities. And that's the challenge of this month, is that you don't want to give energy to a reality you don't want. Start to give energy to the reality you do wish to experience, and you will see little by little that reality come closer. It's time to wind up. You have any final thoughts for our listeners before we send them off into the week?
I think there's a cosmic opening, not just to see old pattern and to realize the lesson, is to also make commitment for lasting change. So let's take advantage this week specifically.
Beautiful. And I think that, again, however we can support you on your journey toward that, you're more than welcome to reach out to us on social media, through our website. We want to hear from you what can help you more in this journey of growth and transformation. You can follow us on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We also post additional content there to help you live out what we speak about on every episode. This week you'll find the link to download the Zohar app there and incorporate using the Zohar into your transformation journey. We also have a website, weeklyenergyboost.com, where you can find that link, our archives, and what we think is important for our listeners to know about. There's also a donate button there. You can click that donate button to support Weekly Energy Boost. But as always, the best support you can show is your sharing of the episode. You're bringing more light, more wisdom, more tools into the hands of more individuals on the planet, which is creating a cosmic shift. And we feel it. I hope you feel it. And we thank you. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.